Here we are once again on Continues to Improve. I'm by no means a finished product. By no means. I got a lot to learn, a lot to grow. But that's the whole point of this channel. It's just to continue to want to grow. I want people to look at me and say, oh, he continues to improve. He's continuing to grow as a person. He's not a finished product, and he knows that. And I'll be the first to tell you, friends, by no means am I a finished product. I got a lot to learn, a lot to grow along this game of life. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Continues to Improve. My name is Jesse. And as you guys saw by the title of this video in particular, I'm going to tell you guys 5 reasons why as a man you should be taking that vacation, you should be taking that time off, and you should be spending money on that trip that you've been postponing or actually not even thinking about. So let's get started. But before we fully get started, friends, I just want to share some of the underlying foundation to the meaning of this video. For me, friends, I grew up going on no vacations at all. My parents were immigrants from Mexico. They didn't really have the funds and they didn't really funnel it that way, right? Taking trips, taking time off, taking vacations. That wasn't really in the vocabulary. It was just work, save your money, spend it wisely, invest it, make it back, and live a good life. Taking vacations is something that now for me, I'm able to gift my family. Now that I'm in the workforce as a man, stable in my life, I know, luckily thanks to a partner that helped me open my eyes, how important it is to actually take that vacation, to take that trip, to make those memories. That is the important part, because this life will pass, friends. This life is continuous until the day that it's not. This life will pass, you will grow, and in that growth, some of it's spiritual, it's mental, it's financial, but our body is a vehicle in this life. So when our body gets old, it grows, and eventually it will fail us. And eventually our ability to move and travel, make those memories, take those vacations won't be there. So at the end of the day, friends, what's the point of making this money if you're not going to spend it and make memories? Memories, when you think of memories, think of vacations, think of trips, think of those things. And that is hard to put a financial value on. So yes, we do have to work hard, we have to save our money, we have to invest it. But as a man, you also have to take the time. Take the time, friends, to spend and funnel some of that money. Prioritize it. My doggo. Prioritize some of that money. Funnel it into actually taking trips, taking vacations. It's important as a man. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. So for this first reason, friends, it's not so much a reason. It's actually more to prompt the question. But it's still in alignment with the 5 things that I want you to think about as to why it's important to take that trip or take that vacation. So for this first one, it is what is the alternative? So someone goes on vacations a lot. They go on trips a lot. That's awesome. What is the alternative? The alternative is to never go anywhere. Is to grind so hard, make this money, and never go out on trips, never go on vacations, never make those memories, right? And sure, we don't know the experience that we don't know we would have had. If we don't know, we don't think about it. But the alternative, friends, is to living a sheltered life. And coming from someone whose first airplane ride was like at the age of 19, first cruise ship was like at the age of 22, first time I was actually at a resort was like 24. For me, living a sheltered life, I didn't recognize how big and how massive this world is. This world is huge, friends. This world is massive. It's unfathomable. When you're on an airplane and you look down and you see just a small piece, but it's so big, that's just one piece of this world. This world is massive. There's so much out there. And when you live a sheltered life and you don't take trips and you don't take vacations, you're not exposed to this idea of how massive the world is, which means how small we actually are. So living a sheltered life is actually not a good thing, friends. Like taking that first plane trip, going on that first cruise ship for me. Those were all new experiences later on in life for me. So now going to do them at that age, it's hard. It's hard to fully detach. It's hard to fully relax, because I've never been exposed to it. My girlfriend, right, and her mom took me on a cruise ship for the first time. And yeah, I'll never forget the memory, because they're like, okay, yeah, here we are. And I was like, what do you mean, here we are? What do we do? And they're like, we're on a cruise ship. This is what we do. And they're just basking out in the sun, just soaking in the sun and just, lingering around, relaxing. And for me, it was so hard to detach myself from not being on vacation into being on vacation. Now I've gotten better at actually being on vacation and still being able to work and then kind of swing into the vacation mode all in one moment. But that has taken time to actually get to. as opposed to the first time I actually went on a cruise ship or any type of vacation. It was so hard for me to just relax and take a breath of fresh air. I was living such a sheltered life. So just take a moment. I just wanted you to take a moment to think about it, friends. One big reason is that you're going to live a sheltered life. Because for me, friends, coming from a sheltered past, I wouldn't want that for those people around me. Now I'm working extra hard to try to get my own family to catch up to these memories that I've already started to make for myself. And there's nothing more than I love at this point in my life than to provide, these vacations and these trips for my parents, my sisters, who just like me grew up sheltered. But now I'm stable enough to be able to help provide these experiences. And it's such a beautiful sight to see. I'll never forget those moments, especially the very first trip I was able to take my parents on. Seeing that look in their eyes from, yes, we're on a beachfront Airbnb, and this is your view for the next 3 or 4 days. And just seeing that look in their eyes. And also seeing that struggle, that just like I had the first time, of fully being able to relax and let go. The second reason goes hand in hand with the first one, but I just want to take the moment to just isolate it. And it's just for you to understand that the world is huge. The world is massive, friends. I've really only been to a few parts of the world, but there's a lot to be learned from just everywhere you go. For me, living in California, going to Mexico isn't a huge deal, but it is a different country, right? You're no longer in the States. Going to Mexico, you start to experience different cultures, different ways of life. You start to see that money, it's harder to be made in certain areas, like Mexico. I recently went to Greece. I'm also very tan because I just went to Greece. Normally I'm not this tan. It's unfortunate that we're going into winter. I wish it was summer rocking this tan, but it's not the case. But just like Mexico, going to Greece, which is way further away, I was able to see another part of the world. I was able to see how people lived there. And just like Mexico, Greece as well, it's hard to make money. There's actually a thing there where they don't actually expect tips, unlike the States, especially in California. Tipping culture is a huge issue, right? It's a big issue, but in Greece, giving tips is not something they expect. So when you give them to them in Greece, they're actually very thankful for it. As opposed to here, you go to Starbucks, you order a coffee, and you look at the screen there, it says $1 tip, $2 tip, $5 tip. It's like expected. In Greece, it's all extra appreciated. But that's something that otherwise I wouldn't know if I didn't actually go to Greece, if I didn't go to Mexico. So it makes me more humbled, if that makes sense. It makes me more appreciative of the place that I'm at in my life. To make about $120,000, $130,000 as an RN here in the States, I live a really good life. And just to be honest, friends, sometimes I lose track of that. I don't remember how good I have it. Going to Mexico, going to Greece reminds me how good I have it in comparison to other parts of the world. So it's a humbling experience. But otherwise, I wouldn't know that if I wouldn't take those trips, I wouldn't take those vacations. I wouldn't know this about other parts of the world. And that's only 2 parts, Mexico and Greece. I got a lot of ambitious trips I want to take, and hopefully I can take you along the way as we go through life, right? But for you, friends, I just want you to understand the small town in which you grew up in, if you still live in it, the state in which you grew up in, if you still live in it, it's small in comparison to how big this world is. So just remind yourself that this is another reason why. Don't live the sheltered life. Get that exposure to these other parts. You may recognize something about your current state of living that you otherwise wouldn't have thought of. Maybe you have it slightly better or better than what you thought you actually had. Sometimes going to other parts of the world will remind you of that. And this next reason, friends, and I'm not going really in a numerical order. As you noticed, I'm not numbering these. But this is the third one. This third one. It expands your desire to get it. And I know it, friends. What is the it part? Well, the it part, it's whatever you determine it to be. I like thinking of the it as the cheese, right? We are all, quote unquote, in this rat race. It's one way that I look at life, right? It could be a flawed way of looking at it, but I look at the game of life, the workforce aspect of it, as a game. We're all in it for the cheese. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be working for this, monetary return. Otherwise, this, United States, other parts of the world are similar, but this is a capitalistic society, is what I'm trying to say. Being able to travel the world and go on those vacations, go to Mexico for me, go to Greece for me, right? It opens up my eyes. It gives me certain experiences that make me want to do it again, right? Or if I was to do it again, I'd like to have maybe a little bit more money so I can be able to do it in a different way, likely in a better way, in a more elevated way. Taking those trips, taking those vacations, it can be a humbling experience, but can also show you some things that you like. Like, for example, for me, I used to think I always wanted to do the van life. when I was in college. And ever since I went to this one Airbnb and exposed me to something very nice, which was a very nice view at this Airbnb, it was a moment that I remember as just changing my life completely and my viewpoint and my drive completely. I became more driven for success after staying at this one Airbnb that had this beautiful view, had a beautiful pool, and it just showed me that there's an elevated way to live this life for the few that want to go out and chase it. Otherwise, you can live this normal life, standing in a line, waiting for life to just come to you and just, take what is handed to you. But if you're not driven enough, friends, sometimes it's nice to take these trips, take these vacations. It'll drive you to want to do it more. And well, what does it take to be able to do it more? It's often going to take more money. It's often going to take more of the cheese. It's going to take more of that it. And it's going to build up that desire to go out and want to do it again. So for me, friends, I just came back from Greece. I wish I could live on the island of Milos. I wish I could go every once in a while to Santorini and stay at that resort place where I had the view of the cliff and the ocean and had breakfast handed to me. I don't want to always live there because it might take some of the drive away, but just getting a little taste, it keeps me hungry enough to want to go back home here to the States and continue to hustle, continue to grind, continue to do things methodically, think of my future methodically, and in that process, try to get it. Try to get the cheese, try to get the money, try to get the thing that I would need to be able to do that more, to have those experiences more often. So for me, like that Airbnb, like this recent trip to Greece, and for you, I just want you guys to understand that sometimes it is important, and it's another reason why I think all men should go on trips and vacations, is because it's a good way to build up the drive, build up the hunger to want to be able to go out and do that more for yourself or provide it for that family that you have, for those people that you love around you. It expands your desire to go out and get it. It keeps you hungry. And if you're broke, if you don't have money, well, you won't be able to do it again. So just, for me, friends, I just talking about it, it just gives me that hunger, gives me that drive to want to go out and do it again and go out and hustle, go out and just really work for what it is that I want. So this next reason, friends, it's one of the most important ones. Because for me, I had a father figure who actually never wanted to spend money on trips. He would have it sometimes, but he just didn't see the purpose behind it. For me, friends, now being older, I can actually see that if it's not just for me, it has to be for those people around you as well. So this next reason is if it's not for you, do it for others. So for me, friends, I always want to live this life with a companion. For me, I don't know if necessarily I want to have kids. At this moment, I say no. But I will still have my family, right? Me, my partner, our dog. That would be our version of a family. My parents, my sisters, that's also a little bit more of an extended picture of my family, right? My partner's mother as well. That's our family. So for me, friends, if let's say I didn't like trips, I didn't like going on vacations, right? What would I do it for? I'd have to do it for others. That's one big reason why, as a man, you should take that trip and take that vacation. Don't be selfish and just think of yourself. If you don't like traveling, if you don't like spending money on this trip for yourself, think about your kids, think about your wife, think about your partner, think about your mother, think about your sisters, think about your cousins, aunts, uncles. There's a lot of people here. That alone is a ton of reasons why, as a man, you should take that trip, provide that trip, make those memories. So think about it, friends. For me, growing up, like I said, I had a father who didn't really prioritize this. He was really good at working hard and saving money and investing it and getting it back, right, through his investments. And every once in a while, we would go on these trips. But the downside to never taking trips, because my father didn't like traveling so much, was I ended up living a sheltered life. As a family, we ended up living a sheltered life. So for me, seeing that, later having a partner that opens my eyes up to the importance of travel, sometimes I recognize now, it's easier to see the picture that if it's not for me and my own personal desire to travel, to take that trip, maybe I'm still okay. I'm not near burnout. I'm still good, right, with my energy. Well, maybe it's time for a trip, right, for my family, for my partner, for people that I love around me. So just keep this in mind. It's easy to just focus on ourselves and our own desires when it comes to actually spending the money on a trip that we feel we don't need. Think about other people, though, because other people may want it. And the people that want it are those people that you care about. Make those memories. You'll certainly thank yourself later on those hard days of work when you look at those old photos of you in Mexico, you in Greece, how happy your mother was, how happy your partner, your spouse was, how happy your kids were on that trip at the beach. Think about other people. That's the main thing that I want you to think about with this particular reason. It's not always going to be about you. Think about those other people as well that you care for. This alone will always be a reason why, as a man, you should take that trip. And you should also be in that picture, helping make those memories. Because if you just buy the trip, buy that vacation for your family, and you're not part of it, you're not included, you're not making those memories. In making memories, sometimes we make great, solid connections. And those are the things that later on in life are valuable. Spending those new experiences and making those new memories with those people that you cared about. They'll never forget it. And just like they'll never forget it, they'll never forget that you weren't there if you weren't there. So friends, this last reason, number 5. I know I've been talking about an elevated vacation, an elevated, experience. Spending money on a trip can be scary, right? But it sometimes doesn't take much. You don't have to wait to just go to that resort, go on that cruise ship. Think about it more often. Take weekend trips. And that's the whole point to this reason, number 5. So just like I was saying, this reason number 5, it doesn't take much. Sure, maybe at first you can't really stay in Santorini when you go to Greece. It's a little too pricey. Or sure, you can't stay at the nicer of the Airbnbs, right? Maybe you still stay at a lower end hotel. But the idea is you got out there. The idea is you're out here making these memories with your family, with yourself. You're providing an experience. You're providing an ability to take that photo that later you, your family, the people you care about will look back and say, I'm really glad we went there. It wasn't, the experience that we would have loved, right? An all-time perfect experience, right? In terms of staying at the best resort, eating the best food, but we made that memory together. And because of that, I'll always cherish it. So just remind yourself, it doesn't take much. Don't hold out for just those really big trips. Take a little 3-day weekend trip. You can go camping and make memories. You can go out for just the day, maybe a drive out to a new city and make a memory. Take that photo. It doesn't take much. For us, friends, growing up, we didn't take many trips, right? One of the biggest factors was we just didn't have the money for it. Looking back at it now, we just didn't like going on trips. We didn't like going on vacations, right? As a family, we just never went. Oftentimes, it was the parents not wanting to go. But regardless, it doesn't take much. Because sometimes just driving to a new city can be it. We grew up in a very rural town about 3 hours away from San Francisco. So sometimes for me, some of my best earliest childhood memories were literally just driving for the day, waking up around 5 a.m., making that very long drive to San Francisco, feeding some ducks, walking along the pier, and then just going home. And really not doing anything. We didn't stay there overnight. We didn't do anything fancy necessarily. But as a child, until today, I still remember that. And that didn't take much. And looking back at it now, I wish my parents would have taken me out to do that more, right? So just remind yourself that as a man, it's important for you just in general to just provide an experience. And that's what I want this whole video to be about. As a man, I want you to understand the importance and the value of providing that vacation, providing that trip. But most importantly, the foundation to the reason to do it is to provide that memory. Provide that moment to take that photo and be the one to, hey, let's take a photo of this. Because you'll remember that day. Once you look at the photo, you'll remind yourself and thank yourself as to why you did it in the first place. If not in that moment, maybe you're too tired, you'll look back at it later on in life, a couple years from then, and be like, man, I'm so glad, I'm so happy I did that for my partner at that time, for my kids at the time, for my mom at that time. Make those memories. Be the person that wants to prioritize it.